Hello, Lakhi.
Hi, Carolyn. Pleasure to meet you.
This is the Carolyn Williams Show, and I welcome you to it. And on a Friday, Fridays are busy days, business-wise. Fridays are busy days for anybody because they tend to wind down on Friday afternoons. Lakhi, can you tell me who you are and where you live?
So I'm a property expert, and I help people across the United Kingdom with property requirements, you could say, fixed problems to do with property and business. And I'm based in Mayfair in Berkeley Square in London.
London, the city with energy. I love London. Many people love London. Is that a place where you actually live and work? So both?
That's correct. Obviously, with the lockdown now, I'm forced to work from home quite a lot, but I'm actually going in once a week to the office for a few hours just to make sure I catch up with post and a bit of admin.
Lakhi, were you part of the Academy in the good old days of 2008 and 2009 with Thomas Power and Penny Power?
That's right. I went to the initial 10-15 meetings that they had in Great Portland Street in a basement somewhere. So I think then they had about at least 20 or 30 members when they first started. So I was actually part of that initial community.
Yes. I joined them a bit later, and they didn't have anybody from Wales at that point. And I've since found out that people think Wales is Cardiff and that's it. And therefore they turn around once they have their favourite coffee and go back on the M4 or by train or by car. And I've often wondered why it is that they've never actually wanted to go any further to see the wonderful coastline we've got, which is called the Gower coastline. Have you been there?
Fortunately, I haven't actually. Now that you've told me, I'm actually in Cardiff at least once a month, or will be once COVID-19 is sort of lockdown gets calmed down a bit. So I'll definitely be making like a overnight stay and making a point to go there then, now that I know.
It's a wonderful place, and you've got many business people who've obviously developed their businesses there in terms of the Oxbridge Bay is beautiful, and there's an Oxbridge Bay hotel there. And that gentleman, Ian Williams, has expanded that tiny hotel from 2-3 people working to, I think he's got 80-90 people working for him now. And so he's done really well. There are so many people now who have bought properties there and are doing really mega things because it's a trust area, which means that it's very difficult to develop anything there. So anybody that manages to do that and blend it in within the natural coastline and coastal points, as it were, have done really well. So they get a lot of my praise. So yes, I think that's something that I'd like all Londoners to do, especially during COVID when it's lifted, that they need fresh air, sea, salt air, and that awareness of breathing. So do you exercise? Is that something, is health and fitness anything of interest to you?
So I basically try and do meditation in the morning, and I also, during COVID-19 especially, been trying to keep up with my exercise. But on the whole, I actually I'm an avid hockey player. I'm part of the local hockey club, and I also I'm a sort of like you could sort of say a veteran breakdancer. So I'm trying to keep up with Brian Rose. I don't think I'm as agile as him, but I think he's an inspiration in that regard, in the sense that he's still keeping it up.
Do you have a personal trainer?
No, I don't actually. I'm my own personal trainer, so I train myself.
But it helps.
I did actually train for about 10 years with a professional coach. So I just use that, and I've got my own program now for weight training.
I know that Brian Rose has had breakdancing lessons, you see. So that's why I asked, do you have a personal trainer of any kind? So it doesn't necessarily mean just hockey, or, you know, it could be anything, because it does help. It'll help from the point of view of, and it's something that I'm very aware of, and you are, I take it, the posture level, because when you're doing something, you're in it and the energy is there. But what you're not aware of, because you can't see it unless you've got mirrors either side of you, is what your posture's doing in all the moves. So it's useful always to have somebody standing there going, well, maybe you need to do that one a little bit differently because your back's going to thank you for it. So that's why I asked you the question, do you have a personal trainer?
I think me and my son, sometimes we sort of break dance together and we always give each other tips, but I tend to sort of copy a lot of stuff from TV and just to try and pick up maybe the latest moves. So I like to watch a lot of hip hop and break dancing.
Yes.
But it's just a fun way of actually keeping fit and also keeping the mind agile.
It's a fantastic way, and not many people do that, so well done. And what I liked, because I've seen 2 of your clips, which was the reason for me asking you to join me here today, was your hockey clip, because it made me laugh, but it also meant something to me because I'm an ex-hockey player. But secondly, was the fact that I saw you dancing with your son. And I think as a father and son activity, that's such a precious thing to do. So tell me more about your videoing there. What spurs you to do that?
Well, what's happened is ever since my son was small and my daughter, I've sort of tried to get them into Bhangra music or hip hop or dancing. So we had an opportunity to dance at the annual Christmas dinner at the hockey club. There's about 100 people attending. So we just put a little routine together, and basically we performed some hip hop and some robotics. And we also did a break dancing one, which clip I haven't showed you, where we did a little bit of leg work and a little bit of, they're called donkey kicks, where you jump onto your hands and you jump back up. So you're almost doing that movement. So you're doing that, like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. You've got to be very strong to do that, number one. And you've also got to be flexible. So would you say that you've got both those covered?
Yeah, I'm probably fitter and healthier now than I was maybe about 30 years ago in my 20s. So I'd say I'm probably stronger than I'm more flexible now, but I'm probably the strength makes it easier because the flexibility is probably not as much there as it was before, but I can still do the moves, still got the groove.
Do you therefore, when you talked about, you know, I'm fitter now than I was when you were in your 20s, what was it that started that? What was the initial impact that said, I need to sort something out here? What happened?
Well, that's a question I wasn't expecting to answer, but the secret is going to come out now. I didn't really look after my body, bad diet, bad food, late nights. I always be late for everything. You know, it's like a very sort of wrong psychology around food and eating habits, as well as sleeping patterns. So I actually went for a checkup, and they said, we looked at you, but if you continue the way you are, you're going to have, you're going to get diabetes, you're going to get this, you're going to get that. You know, you're eating like the wrong foods. So they said you need to go regularly, get some exercise. So I started a strict weight training routine or a gym routine for about 10 years with one of the top sort of Olympic trainers for Olympians in terms of weight training. And I think I've carried that discipline's carried me through now to the age of 53. So yeah, I know you may think I look 60, but I'm actually 53.
No, I think you look a very fit man. This is something that obviously does excite me because I'm a veteran fitness professional. And it was the London Central YMCA on Tottenham Court Road, the developmental training department there, that captured my excitement in seeing that they were futuristic, forward thinking, in saying, we want to make sure that the population is fitter and does exercise, but does them safely. So they called it safe and effective exercising. And that pleased me. So I joined them, and I was mentored, if you like. In those days, we called it coaching, by the head of sports science for Loughborough. And Loughborough is noted as being the sports science university for the UK. Brunel University followed through. So they developed a theoretical course for anybody that wanted to do exercise to music. So that would have included your breakdance. Anybody that wanted to do sports science in that respect and exercise, and anybody that wanted to do weight training. So that was born literally in 1990 through the London Central YM Training Department. So looking at you, I am pleased that you had that, I would say, awakening to create a discipline. So do you feel that that discipline has helped you in your business?
I would say probably that has probably been the fundamental ingredient, let's say, in the cake, to be able to ensure that I'm, let's just say, mentally strong to be able to do things. I think your physicality and your mental ability, they're interlinked. And I don't think I was sort of probably mentally that agile, but certainly my physical strength has helped me to become mentally more agile, because it's helped me through many a turbulent time over the last 30 years or so in business and in property.
They're called high performance disciplines. And therefore you've just sort of explained that one as somebody in business, and it doesn't happen to this show very often, that you're aware that to create high performance habits, which is what most serial entrepreneurs, and you are one, do, is to sort of get up and realize that they've got to work the body in some fashion or other. Meditation's a part of it. And therefore anything that you do as early as you can helps you drive through that particular day, and if it's a busy day. So come back to you in terms of what you actually do as a day. Prior to COVID, what would your day be like in business?
A typical day is literally 5 days before, you won't believe this, that I was waking up at 6 in the morning. It was probably that particular week because I decided to actually work in London because I was so busy. Start at 6 in the morning, get into the office before 7, have a conference call with our international team from 7 to 8. Then 9 o'clock meet with my PA, go through various client work with our international office and another conference call. And then literally doing back-to-back meetings from 10 o'clock till about 6, 7 in the evening. And then I'd probably be going out for maybe a dinner in one of the nice private members clubs in Mayfair with some friends. But it'll be semi-business, semi sort of social. And then literally finishing at about 12, 1 o'clock and getting sleep about 2 o'clock, probably in a local hotel. Because then it's literally 5 minutes around the corner from the office. Yeah. But even then, I think a bit spoiled because I had my car, so I'd be driving 5 minutes to the hotel, and then coming back and then parking my car up and about continuing work, but continuing the same for 5 days. Yeah. But I do actually take the weekends off and try not to overdo it, even though I do manage to take the weekend off. Means spending at least 5 hours, maybe 6 hours, catching up with social media or catching up with other things, as you would know, you being a bit of a social media influencer yourself.
Yes. It takes a lot of time, but it's about spotting something. So are you perceptive? Would you say you're perceptive?
Yeah, I'm very perceptive actually. So I've got very good cheeky intuition. For example, yesterday I was in the office after about a week or two of not being there, and there's 3 new young ladies that started in reception. So I didn't know them, but I said, let me take a guess where you guys are from. And they had quite neutral accents. I couldn't even tell where they're from, really, in terms of accents, because it just had like a very neutral accent. So I said, you're from North London. And I said, you're from West London. And you're 22 and you're 23. And they said, how do you know that? I said, it's just a guess. They said, but how would you know? I said, is it right? And they said, yes. Well, one of them said, actually, I'm 22, but I'm going to be 23 in about a week. So I said, how would you know those things? I said, I didn't know, because my intuition is pretty good. Then I think we had quite a few people walking past, and one person said, I need to tell me my age now. And I said, I can't do it under pressure, but I'll take a guess. And I said, 25. And she said, no, I'm 31. And I said, okay, well, I'm not really here to perform like David Blaine, but I'm here to entertain, to keep you guys entertained anyway. So I hope, I think they're quite fascinated really about how that was done. But it's just a bit of fun, really, a bit of banter.
Yes, it's human. It shows the human personality, which I love. And that's something I do in a different kind of way. I had weekly gone to on-site, as I call it, to Ford Motor Company, the automotive engine plant, because I'd become their fitness professional in terms of creating their gymnasium and anything to do with exercise, anything to do with nutrition, and anything to do with stress management. So because of that concept, I would then come back like you in the car and drive home on the M4 weekly. And as you know, the traffic and the traffic jams, as it were, have got worse and worse. So I'd put Radio 1 on, and they would be doing what you've just explained there, Lakhi, in terms of they'd set a question about, how old do you think this person is? And so they'd have somebody coming in, calling in and saying, et cetera, and you'd have to guess how old they were. And I just found that fascinating, because you've got to be, I think, physically there to see as well the person. It helps. But to do it through just the radio in terms of recording is quite a difficult concept. But there's an art to it. So
yeah, I think I've got quite a good sort of sick feeling. If I talk a gut feeling with sixth sense, you could say, not sick feeling, but when I meet people on the phone, I can sort of feel their energy. I can sort of tell what they've been through, what's happened to them, just by their voice. Yes. And then I can normally know their age, and I sort of normally take a guess. And I'm usually probably about 9 times out of 10, I'm spot on with their age as well. I don't always get it right, but normally I get it close to the. I usually get it on the date itself. Actually, it's either completely out or completely right. But 9 times out of 10, it's usually completely right.
You could win a few prizes as tickets to go and see something if you did that on the Radio 1 show, because that's what they're trying to do, is to sort of gain more, numbers in terms of the followers. Coming back to social media and you, why is it that you do what you do?
Okay. Basically, I am by my nature and my family, the way we are, is that we and also our religion is that we are people that like to serve, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And serve without wanting anything in return. Now, there's a word for it in the Punjabi language, in the Sikh religion. It's called seva, spelled S-E-W-A. Seva means to give of oneself without expecting anything in return. But obviously, when you're in business, there's got to be some sort of reciprocity, because you can't do everything for free, unfortunately, much as I love to. But my way of doing business has been really that to help people. And I tend to help people that are potentially going to be homeless, or they may be in a dire financial predicament. And so I'm sort of known as the property fixer. And I've just set up a group called the Alternative Property Business Solutions Community, with a panel available for 24 help for people that are now suffering due to the overspill of the pandemic, that as we all know. So my fundamental is that I want to help with my team for people to get a new job, deal with stopping a repossession, fight off any negative equity problems and get them written off for people that are now close to the breadline, help people to raise money or to be able to restructure their assets if they're in a bit more senior business. Also, if they need to sell something quick or they want to buy something quick because they want to grow or try to create a new income. And well as actually helping them to actually become an associate in one of our companies where we can actually make money by becoming an introducer. So I want to be really sort of like a one-stop shop for people that are somewhere in between something like shelter and somewhere like small business support, which is a government body, but in the middle, which is a bit more commercial. So nobody is really helping people in the real world in business to try and ensure that they can just keep what they've got at the moment in this market. So my concern is that a lot of people may not realize how bad it could get. So just to make sure they protect themselves, cover themselves by just doing really basic things, from repairing their credit to doing a long-term fix if they're getting a mortgage. So if interest rates do go up rapidly, then don't get caught up by the crossfire. So that's really what I'm about. And one of the reasons I'm actually on your show is that I really want to get the message out there. So I really appreciate being on here and actually being given a voice.
I love the voice, and that's what led me to Brian Rose, London Real TV studios in London. That was 2017, and that was because because of my fitness professionality, I walk everywhere. Even though I've got a car, I still park the car, and if I can walk anywhere and get there, I will do. So I used to walk miles every day, and I would come across more and more young people destitute, more and more drug addicts, more and more alcoholics, more and more people in very dirty, smelly sleeping bags in shop doorways, and felt that nobody was really doing anything about it because the numbers were increasing as opposed to decreasing. So that led me to London Real, because I wanted to find my voice and be able to be a voice. And as I did that, it took an awful lot of courage to do it, because I've broken my jaw at the age of 11. So for many years, I've had a lot of reconstruction in my jaw, having had wires to solidify, if you like, a lot of the dental work that's been done. And I found it very difficult to pronounce words. And I suffer migraines as a result of the concussion I had. So migraines would be there on a monthly basis, and that would mean I'd have lots of very tight muscles, facial muscles and jaw muscles. So I used to then look out for people who would either be an osteopath or a hydrotherapist. And that led me to London again, because one of the most famous hydrotherapists I came across did the education program that attracts an awful lot of entrepreneurs. And this gentleman's name is Ben Barnett. And I was doing a presentation in London, and I was doing it for Academy. So it was called edutainment. So it wouldn't be education, it would be entertainment in the way that you've just explained it, edutainment. And I was getting very stressed about it in terms of who was going to be there, and that I'd pitched it to the right audience. So I therefore heard of Ben Barnett and thought, right, I'll go to Chelsea. I'll go to, I think it's Mayfair, in the way that you've explained it. He'd give me the address and I'll try hydrotherapy. And it was blissful because he taped some really relaxing music. He actually talked me through on a recording, and he knew exactly where the problems were in terms of the presentation, tension in terms of my facial muscles. So I then relaxed so much. That's when you know it really is powerful, that you can actually fall asleep. When something really works, you actually fall asleep. So my view on a therapist is always, if they're good at what they do, cranial therapy, if they're good at what they do in hydrotherapy, in any fashion whatsoever, when it's really good, you actually feel you're going to go off to sleep. Now, I don't know if you've watched Marigold Hotel, and you get a lot of celebrities that are on the Marigold Hotel, and they always go to somewhere where they can have some therapy, and that fascinates me, because one particular cricketer who was a commentator and was on this series of the Marigold Hotel, he had gone because of an accident similar to what I had. I think he'd had a car accident, and he had problems in his spine. So in India, he'd been sort of told to go to XYZ therapist, and he was seen on camera doing everything that this therapist had said in terms of a Pilates kind of yoga therapy, but there was a medical background to it, and he fell asleep in front of the camera. It was that good. So that's something that isn't just what you hear, that's something that's proven visually through the camera. And that was through Marigold Hotel, and I thought that was fascinating. So come back to you and the way you do your days, and you've changed the way you do your days, because that's about valuing who you are, because you want to be able to be the voice of people going through COVID in terms of repossessions, in terms of finance, in terms of the legality. And that isn't something we hear too often. And particularly in Swansea, because I did have a boardroom in Cardiff, and I would teach in Cardiff in the very early 70s. And therefore I've seen Cardiff has the same kind of numbers, even more obviously because of the population, of homelessness than Swansea. So whenever I go from Swansea to Cardiff, I see the rise in homelessness. Whenever I go from Cardiff to London Paddington and then out to Islington, which is what I was doing with Brian Rose, the numbers were increasing on the underground, the numbers were increasing on top. You'd see everybody doing the same kind of thing again. And I'd say, right, I have to do this in front of the camera. I have to say, there is a sharp increase. There is a sharp rise in homelessness. There is a sharp rise in repossessions. There is a sharp rise in lack of cash. There is a sharp rise in that compared with the job situation, the availability of jobs. And nobody is saying anything about it. But there you are, Lakhi, coming here onto the show saying, we know that this is real because we see it on the streets. We know that this is real in businesses. We see businesses being closed down. I walk still, even today, I walk miles, and I go past all the businesses and the clubs and the restaurants and the accountancies, and a lot of them are closing down. So here you are saying what I call the realness of what you see. And can you therefore say, how do people get in touch with you and your organization because of shelter and anything else that you've got in terms of the businesses that are relevant?
Okay, I mean, we're very easy to get hold of. I mean, if you typed in stop repossession, negative equity, or something called LPA receivers, we actually come up number one organically on the internet. We don't even advertise, but I'm a specialist in digital marketing. I used to be the head of Deloitte's global internet presence at some stage about 20 years ago. From that experience, I've also learnt SEO back to front. So we almost control the key words as of about 10 years ago, helping people with these problems even before COVID-19. So, what is it? How do they get in contact with us? They have to ring 0207 127 6536, or simply just type in rescuemyproperties.co.uk and go to the contact us button, and it comes through directly to our head office in Mayfair, and then we allocate the right professional depending on the problem. So LPA receivership is a specialist area where somebody's got a few properties, let's say 4 or 5 buy-to-let properties, and they've gone in arrears, and the bank's now trying to appoint receivers which will collect the rent from the tenants directly so you don't get the income. We are the leading specialists with LPA receivership in the country, so we're better than any barrister or solicitors. So if anybody's got that particular problem, and they're gonna suffer because their tenant's going to have a problem. So they're going to be people potentially in the street because of the properties having to be vacated. The landlord's going to suffer because he hasn't got knowledge about how to deal with the receivers. And if the receivers take the properties and they sell all of them, which technically they don't have as much legs to stand on as most people would think, that debt can also then be put on your personal house, and then technically putting an individual at very high risk in terms of losing not only their hard-earned investments, but also their personal house. A lot of people probably realize it in principle, but they could never foresee that coming. But now the risk of that happening, not just to a couple of thousand people, which was the case pre-COVID-19, now the risk of that happening is potentially to millions of people worldwide, and especially now in the UK, because the pandemic is still there, and
Yes.
don't know how bad it could still get. So I am very passionate about helping people in that regard. But if you've got negative equity, then also do the same. Just go to Rescue My Properties, just talk to us. But any problems you've got, even if you're short of finance, so you need a loan for your business, I'm actually passionate about finding a solution, but it's all done formally and legitimately and legally within guidelines. We are there to help and support you. So basically, you can also join the Facebook community that we've set up, which is 24 hours now. And we're just getting it up to a very high standard. I've literally got about 20 people working on that for the last 6 months, getting it all set up, structured. So basically, you can go into the community and ask any questions anonymously. From between 9 and 5, you'll be able to go in and ask 5 experts any of these topics around finance, debt, stock repossession, negative equity, or being able to sell quickly or buy quickly if you're interested in investing as well. So, I've got a lot to say, so I'm going to stop there.
Yes, that was something that, in terms of walking myself through this, really, was how I came to find out more about you before this show. And that was through your business growth Facebook page. And so I can actually say to people, well, I've done it, and I've walked through there physically and virtually, and got to know you, and got you therefore virtually on this Zoom call and recording with me to tell us more about who this man is behind the whole organization and business. So during COVID, one of the things I'm very keen on, which is why I asked you about your fitness regime and your exercise regime, was because the lungs for COVID are essential to be aware of. And meditation helps from that point of view, because it helps to focus on where it is we need to settle down, where it is that we need to really create a hyper awareness of our heart and lungs. Because a lot of people, when they are physically strong, will focus on the chest, will focus on really being upper body very strong. But I've always maintained as a fitness professional all these years that without a good heart beating and without a good set of lungs, nothing is going to work. And it really comes forward with COVID now, because we really need to be aware of how healthy we are and what the air pollution is and what any pollution is. And that change will be for the positives. So how do you and your family, because I know you have your family to think of as well as your business and yourself, how do you see the changes that COVID's brought about for us as people?
I think basically what's happened is that COVID is a sort of like a realization that we should actually be looking after ourselves regardless of COVID anyway. And I think what's happened is in some ways it's actually like a wake-up call to good practice of well-being. So in terms of now that COVID's happened, it means that people have had to probably need to rethink how they think, work, act, and manage themselves emotionally and physically. And really, everybody needs to be more integrated within themselves to create a better version of themselves at every level. Because if you've got a very healthy psychology and you've got a very healthy physicality and you've got a peaceful soul, then it's very difficult for any disease to be really attacking you, because your immune system is such a high level that it's going to be difficult to actually get in. But it may just be that if you have got ailments like diabetes or Alzheimer's, or you've got some lung problems, bronchitis, asthma, you're more susceptible to such an illness. But can you imagine if you started focusing on now trying to somehow eradicate that illness by focusing in a lot more on what you really need to focus on, which is your health and well-being.
Yes.
Now, without going, let's just say, to a different level in the conversation or saying something that may be slightly a bit subjective, there are solutions out there which can potentially help you to make your diabetes better.
Yes.
There are solutions out there which might make your Parkinson's better. There are solutions out there which might make your asthma better.
Yes.
But you may have actually just taken the short-term pill, or a very sort of pharma type approach to what's going on, and not really thought about your well-being, because you probably didn't realize how vulnerable you could be in circumstances such as this pandemic, and now you may be somewhat semi-sectioned in your house.
Yes.
Because a lot of hospitals are saying, well, you're not allowed outside your house because you're on the high risk list. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, so there's, let's just say, three different levels of people that are very healthy, people that are borderline, and people that are on sort of like mid to high risk. Now, if you're healthy, then I would say you need to be super healthy. You need to be healthy as Usain Bolt. If you're mid-healthy, then what you need to do is you need to get to at least healthy. And the way you need to do that is you need to look at anything to do with your health that you think could be a potential weakness, almost do an audit, and then do a check, and you want to optimize your health. And then if you're at the high risk stage over here, you may have actually just taken your health for granted and thought, okay, well, I've got that, I just have to live with it, but I'm going to continue working hard and ignore it and just bury your head in the sand and just hope it would go away, but not realizing that it could be the end of you potentially with what's happening at the moment. So obviously, if you're over here, you're at very high risk, so you really need to focus in on maybe traditional medicine, doing things such as meditation. There's lots of Qigong, there's Pilates, there's yoga, there's deep meditation, there's even possibly upping your health regime in terms of maybe getting more walks or getting more exercise and getting more circulation. So I'm not even saying actually worry about trying to become an Ironman or something and do 100 miles running and 100-meter swim or something. Sorry, 100-mile swim. What I'm saying is, if you can get that extra 3 or 4% improvement at any of these three stages, that 3 or 4% could be the difference between life and death for this risk group here, and even this group here. So it's easier said than done, because but I think it's an opportunity to actually assess ourselves and become our better selves.
I love that, to become our better self. I have written an online course called Be Your Best Version. And that's about where you've just described it in an audit fashion. So it's not just a financial audit session, it is a well-being audit session where you really go through which level, especially during COVID. And yes, it's very much for me, my way of looking at it is pushing through the fear, because fear is everywhere and politics will create fear. And therefore we become very tense as a result of that fear. But once, as you quite rightly said, and it was beautifully said there, Lakhi, I love the way you did it. Once you realize that you can do something about it, we all can. We are all the owners of our own destiny, owners of our own bodies. So I love the way you did that. Thank you very much for doing it. There are people out there that can help you do this kind of thing, and therefore you've got it in your psychology, as it were, to be able to continue doing the business and continue being a family man and continue being a dad, continue being a husband. And you can do all of these things once you've accepted that without health, the wealth is really insignificant, because they want you to be as fit as you are. So I'm very grateful to you explaining that. I'll let you get on with your business. Now that you've explained what people and how they can get hold of you, which is very important, they've got to know a little bit more about the man behind it all, which is what I wanted, to be able to showcase who you are behind the business. And I believe that whenever you're coming to Cardiff and Swansea, you'll let me know, because I'd love to meet you in person.
For sure. I mean, I think there's lots of landlords in Cardiff who are actually, I'll be coming to visit, and I'm actually a registered and regulated estate agent based in Cardiff as well, in terms of our reach, because we're UK wide. So I'll definitely be coming to Cardiff at least once a month, as soon as lockdown is somewhat, slowed down. So for sure, we're happy to help anybody out there who needs any help in Cardiff with some amazing solutions, including writing off negative equity debt with a 100% track record.
Excellent. Well done. And thank you very much for spending time with me. Thank you.
Well, a pleasure meeting you, Carolyn Williams, and best of luck with all these shows. Fantastic interview. I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
I hoped you did.
I did, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.